There's been an interesting thing happening. I don't quite know what this means, but I've been noticing in the last few weeks that when I've said things that are overtly disparaging of religion, I've been getting pushback from my audience in ways that I never have before.
Catholicism, let's say, for all its irrationality, was as rational as people can get. If you remove that level of irrationality, that's structural, say, then everything falls apart and people get so irrational, you can't believe it.
My calling, in this case, Catholic dogma bullshit, was deemed offensive by some people.
Consider your transformation to something approximating the Logos. It means you shine a light on the whole world. Well, there's nothing more exciting to do than that. There's nothing better you can possibly do.
The true horror of religion is that it allows perfectly sane, intelligent people to believe by the billions what only lunatics or imbeciles could believe on their own. If you think that saying a few Latin words over your pancakes is going to turn them into the body of Elvis Presley, you have lost your mind. But if you believe more or less the same thing about a cracker in the body of Jesus, you're just a Catholic.
The first time that I watched Sam Harris, I remember that I liked him.
This idea that without religion, something fundamental would be lost to us in moral terms. This really is questionable when you look at the books.
Out of all the so-called four horsemen, Sam was my favorite.
Whatever people are experiencing in church or in prayer, no matter how positive, the fact that Buddhists and Hindus and Muslims and Christians are all experiencing it proves that it can't be a matter of the divinity of Jesus or the unique sanctity of the Quran.
I had never heard anyone speak about religion the way Harris did. He was and still is a wizard with words. It was during this time I read his book, The End of Faith, Lying, and Free Will. It was also during this time I was attempting to get sober through the AA program, founded upon the belief in a higher power. But given that I had become a kind of proselytizing atheist who would take any opportunity to tell a religious person that they were wrong, the idea of a higher power working in my life, or anyone else's for that matter, simply was not on the table. Thankfully, I found Waking Up. Sam's book, Waking Up, A Guide to Spirituality Without Religion, remains one of my favorite books on consciousness. I had been waiting for an atheist who was honest and brave enough to admit, and in this case endorse, the necessity of living a spiritual life. It was around this time that I had racked up some sober time, I went on a Buddhist retreat, I got my old job back, and through meditation achieved insights empirically confirming that my problems were arising solely from being identified with and lost in thought. I would often sit and intentionally reflect on the universe, staring at the stars, and trying to fathom how big the cosmos was, and how small I was in comparison. And I would tell myself, isn't it incredible that all of this happened by accident, that by some chance, I'm alive and existing.
Yes, the cosmos is vast and appears indifferent to our mortal schemes, but every present moment of consciousness is profound. In subjective terms, each of us is identical to the very principle that brings value to the universe. Experiencing this directly, not merely thinking about it, is the true beginning of spiritual life.
But as time went by, I realized, just as many atheists also realize, that my claim of an accidental universe was an assumption that made less and less sense, leaving space for a new assumption that some mind was behind everything, that something underlies the totality of the universe. I wasn't saying that I knew that or that I was in contact with that, but that just maybe. I wasn't a theist, but a kind of open agnostic, or even an open atheist. And I started hearing Harris with different ears, and it was just around then I saw this guy.
It's a contradictory document that's been cobbled together over thousands of years. It's outlasted kingdoms, many, many kingdoms. You know, it's really interesting that it turns out that a book is more durable than stone. It's more durable than a castle. It's more durable than an empire.
I remember making a video on Jordan Peterson and Bill C-16 when a commenter said something to the effect of, "I love Jordan Peterson, too bad he's religious though." And my reaction was that I too at the time thought that it was too bad. It was a kind of intellectual letdown. How could he be religious? And did he actually pray? And what kind of religious person was he? Initially, Peterson's lectures were difficult to digest, as his use of language can sometimes be vague. But once his points do land, it's often an insightful perspective I wasn't previously familiar with. And since watching more of Peterson, I've been looking into other like-minded intellectuals of the past, such as Carl Jung, and his views on the collective unconscious, something Peterson references often. But this is not to say, speaking for me, that I don't still very much appreciate Sam's views and consider him a valuable voice in the world. But as it pertains to his views on religion, and it would appear that many others, some of whom atheists, have become emboldened by Peterson's perspective. In my view, Peterson's emphasis on meta-narratives, which in general are allegorical stories passed down through generations, refined and mirrored over and over through thousands of years, have been a beneficial compass directing how I ought to act in the world. Though Sam's understanding of consciousness is profoundly more sophisticated than Peterson's, his analysis of religion often feels incomplete and surface level. I get it. Lots of stuff in the Bible and the Book of the Dead are irrational, but many other aspects of religion cut to the core of the human condition and our need to create these texts and how they came to be created. And the fact that the same themes emerge all over them is where Peterson's focus becomes refreshing, interesting, and helpful. And to represent Sam honestly, his response to this would likely be that the reoccurring themes of virtue we find in religion can be found anywhere, claiming religion has good things in it, of course, but the good things come mired in superstitious bullshit. As far as being against the irrationality, I agree with Sam, but I have other disagreements with Sam that seem to be a difference in focus and a sense of caution in regards to Sam's conclusion that the world needs an end of faith. But in a way, Harris and Peterson are both right. Religion is full of irrational bits we do not need, and it's filled with great bits we do need. We have to find a way of combining the wisdom from religious texts with our growing appreciation for rationality, to learn from religion, because humans need community, and religion gives them the chance to gather in a purposeful way, to discuss the power of forgiveness, to get together in a room and talk about why it's important to be honest, to confess what we've done wrong. Religious people get to be a part of something that's bigger than they are, and I'm skeptical if the secular community can, number one, agree these are human needs, and number two, achieve these needs under a secular lens. So while anti-theists are stuck saying karma or reincarnation is irrational, I'm focusing on the insights of the Buddha and the impactful sacred texts in the Pali Canon. If you're still confused why Peterson has become so popular, it's because atheism, combined with religious antipathy, has made a lot of people discontent or fatalistic. The reductionist materialist worldview seems to have closed the door to meaning in the minds of some who inhabit it. And it's these kinds of people, among many others, who have been resonating with Peterson's lectures, who have taken the time to re-examine their axiomatic assumptions about the universe, or have only just realized they held them. Being an atheist simply means a lack of belief in a god. It's many who hold the materialist, realist worldview, however, that assumes the natural world is all there is. And I'm just not so sure anymore that this is the case. And although I obviously struggle with why bad things do happen, I still cannot help but doubt my atheism. I can't help seeing the world through a focal point of purpose, that my life has meaning. Not because I say it does, but because something bigger than myself might be behind it. And where even the question of God, however loosely or redefined, is an open one.